Simon hits the ground, Ezra hits a person, is this OB, and so much more. What's up, degenerates? It's the disc golf world. I'm Jefferson, and alongside me, the one with all the holes in his game, Swiss Cheese. Let's waste no time, because there's a lot to discuss. One of the most debated questions from the weekend surrounded Ezra Robinson and the spotter he hit on hole 17. Most of the time when we're talking about disc interference, it's at the detriment of the player. This time, it was actually the opposite. The spotter in prime position watched the approach shot right into her and back in bounds because that thing was headed straight towards the OB. That's not the controversial part. Instead, many on social media debated if Ezra laid up the putt. I'm not going to speculate on the matter, but this is what fans had to say. And the deeper I looked, the more I saw people really thought he gave up the stroke because he didn't earn it. I don't know what he said, but others went on to say that he even admitted to it on coverage. Let us know in the comments your thoughts, and while you're down there, tell us if this is in or out of bounds. More drama, this time when Adam Hammas's disc landed directly on the painted line. Of course people went to blow this thing up. Some taking the side of needing a better indicator of OB since even a single blade of grass is enough to be considered in bounds. Then there's those who believe there needs to be officials. And yes, that sounds like an easy solution, but the dgpt isn't in the position to accommodate for that. I mean, we still can't even get correct stats yet. Or AB has long enough arms to make 20-footers look like that. Lastly, there's a group of people that believe Hammas is in the wrong for not calling himself OB, and personally, I don't agree with that. Maybe next time just don't immediately claim benefit to the player, as that comes off not so great. As of right now, disc golf is a self-officiated sport, and the responsibility goes to the other players on his card. The issue then becomes what happens when one says in and the other says out. Well, I'd argue you got a third person to make the call. But instead, we get this term, benefit to the player. At the end of the day, no one wants to be the jerk. But it comes down to this is a professional sport, and the tough decisions need to be made. Over the weekend, I saw plenty of conversation if the WACO course has outgrown the Pro Tour. Some players are more outspoken about it than others.
I feel like 10 of the holes are all filler holes.
Yeah.
Aren't they all filler holes? Wait, this is bad. What if this is a filler tournament? Just to get us to play Austin, you know? Is that bad?
No, that's exactly what it is.
It's a fun course.
Professional Chris Clemens shares his thoughts on Reddit after many didn't agree with Aaron Gossage's take of the course, saying that both styles are needed on tour, which I can't argue. However, Simon gave his opinion on the topic and pretty much summed up my perspective perfectly.
This course, some people say there's the scoring separation isn't quite there, but I think that makes for way more exciting leaderboards, way more exciting finishes when there's like 15 players in contention. After round one, there were like 15 players within 2 strokes or 3. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that more fun to watch than someone getting a 6 and someone else getting a 2 on a hole? In my opinion, disc golf needs to go in this direction of playing courses where everyone can score, courses that aren't so overly punishing that if you make a tiny little mistake or you get unlucky, you get like a 2 or 3 stroke swing on holes. It's just too random.
Speaking of Simon, we gotta talk about what could have ended his season. Hey, that's his title, not mine. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, he can explain it for you.
I've torn my ACL before, and this today felt honestly almost worse. Like way sketchier. I fell so hard, and I think I got away with just this little scratch right here, and that's all I got. It feels a little bit sore, definitely gonna have a bruise here tomorrow, but overall, my joints and my ligaments got away with it.
Thankfully, Simon walked away from the incident with little injury. But I want to focus on what the commentators had to say.
We were talking about this T-pad yesterday, Brian.
But this is what I'm saying. He wants to have space to step to throw this massive shot, and you really don't. You have maybe 2 feet of that corner to plant your foot, and that's all that happened.
Feels like if this is a topic brought up more than once, that it should be addressed. Plus, I know Rock and John and the WACO crew can make some legit T-pads. Maybe next season. A few more quick things before we jump into the FPO recap. Brian and Charlie brought their A-game sporting suits in the booth. Is this the step disc golf needed to stop being called lame? My guess? No. I really hate to harp on this, but now that I'm stuck at home watching DGN, I would like to be able to see it, and not be faced with technical difficulties every event. Granted, this is only stop 2, but we've been coming to WACO since 2017. I feel like something should be figured out by now. That all being said, the final round didn't give me any troubles, and that's the most important thing. And I'll be the guy that says it. What's up with those damn Prodigy baskets? I wasn't going to say anything, but that so-called spit out from Simon on hole 6 was too ridiculous not to say something. Okay, that's enough whining. Swiss, hit the people with the FPO recap.
In her first action of the season, most penciled in Kristen Lott to take down her third WACO championship in a row, as her winning at WACO seemed to fit more so than the new professional attire the host brought to the coverage. And it's safe to say, as Kristen has yet to lose at this event, as the Beast layout plays right into her best strengths. But it would be another European in Henna Blomroos, who shot out of the gates early and had the entire field chasing her after the first round action came to an end. Despite Henna's putting woes from the circle, she would total 10 birdies on the round, while having birdie looks within the circle on 13 of the 18 holes for the day, showing just how strong she was off the tee. And while we're on the subject of putting, Kristen was uncharacteristically off from inside the circle also, and it wasn't for just the first round either. She would miss 5 putts from inside the circle on day 1, and the Prodigy baskets weren't the ones to blame. However, despite her not playing her best, still finished at 7 under and a stroke behind Blomroos. Now, a lot of the buzz early was about Jessica Weiss's play, shooting a 7 under on the day and making lead card. Her following that up, going 6 under on the front 9 the very next day. Certainly didn't stop the chatter either, as she held a 4-stroke lead at one point. Of course, any positive talk was welcomed after that 5-putt blow-up on hole 3 by Henna. Now, I didn't think there could be anything worse than that Swiss Army knife graphic reference at the beginning of coverage, but that triple bogey was somehow even worse. Didn't improve much from there either, adding 5 more C1 missed putts on the day right after. Kristen would need to overcome her own putting mishaps, missing 3 straight C1 birdie looks early as Weiss began to separate. Yet, just like day 1, even while not playing her best, still finished with a 7 under on a bogey-free back half, giving herself a share of the lead that she would not look back from after a triple bogey from Weiss on 12. And I would love to say there was a battle, but Weiss dealt with injury, Henna was still missing putts, and the final day was all a lot. And despite Kristen being absolute ass at Uno, I guess, she's not bad at throwing plastic, as she cleaned up her putting, going 100% from the circle and notching 11 birdies on the round for a 9 under and comfortable 7-stroke victory, to become the second back-to-back-to-back WACO winner in its history, to tie only Paige Pierce. Holland Hanley's 7 under on the final round moved her into a second place, starting the year with back-to-back podium finishes. Not bad for her, while Henna was able to hold on just enough for her first podium of the season. That, and Rebecca Cox was able to set a new course record with an 11 under bogey-free round that moved her up 8 spots and into another top 10 finish of her own.
Over on the MPO side, the Peach Pirate took an early lead. Didn't even matter that he sacrificed that stroke after feeling bad. Guess he never stopped feeling bad. Calvin Heimberg was only down a stroke, and with a 10 under round 2, shot up to first place with a 2-stroke lead over Paul Macbeth and Adam Hammis. The final round was set, and conditions were at the best they had been all weekend. For sure, players would be ready to shred the course. Jake Mon was certainly there for it, as he tied the course record, which would have the same amount of throws as Macbeth's perfect round. So congrats on your 18 under, Jake. For the lead card, it started like many would expect. 4 easy birdies on hole 1. Paul fanboys got nervous on hole 2 as he would get a nasty kick off the tree out of bounds, especially as the rest of the card would secure the birdie. Hammis would be the first to find real trouble as he would catch the limbs on hole 4. His approach would leak long of the basket in an awkward position to save par and completely airballed the putt, walking away with a frustrating bogey. Maybe Simon is onto this you need to bogey in order to play better thing, because in the next 3 holes, Adam would take 3 strokes on Calvin, nailed back-to-back circle edge putts on the short holes, and then threw one of the most disgusting drives I've ever seen on hole 7, barely missing the cameraman's face, resting up for a tap-in eagle. Now Hammis would be tied for the lead with Calvin. He wasn't the only concern, however. Macbeth was 6 under through 9, and with a birdie on 10, would be looking to make a push. For Hammis, he wouldn't be able to carry the momentum. Instead, went cold with a 5-hole par stretch. During that time, Heimberg would be making simple mistakes that would be costly. Yeah, I'm talking about that super close missed putt on hole 9. Bounced back with a big birdie on hole 10 and followed that up with a 2 to reclaim a tie for the lead with, you guessed it, Mr. Macbeth. That wouldn't last long as Paul smacked an early tree, kicking him long OB, missing the Mando on 13, which did put him in a much better spot, but still wasn't able to convert on the putt. A trend that costed him down the stretch. After a big forehand off the tee, Hamas would easily get the birdie, and went on to can another from the edge of C1, putting him back up on top of the leaderboard. And right when he does something good, he goes and chucks the layup right over the fence like he was trying to throw this thing away. Watching that OB shot, Heimberg would safely lay up and secure the birdie on 15. Again alone at the top with 3 holes to play, and after putting himself in a solid position off the tee on 16, Calvin fluffed his approach, allowing Hamas to set himself up for a 13-foot birdie and tied. Again. Hole 17 might be one of the best holes we see all year, and it wouldn't disappoint. Adam shows why he is considered to have one of the best forehands in the sport. Heimberg would snag an early tree that threw him out of bounds. Now only left with one option. That is to bring out his inner Jared Stoll, going up and over everything to hopefully get a low. Okay, doesn't really matter. Looking at the basket, Hamas would execute one of the prettiest sidearms ever, trusting his disc over the water with no worries, skipping right up to the basket, making sure to stay the hell away from the painted line. And don't think Adam is safe by any means, because sneakily Simon has been sliding up the leaderboard. After a bogey on hole 12, Lizotte would birdie the last 6 holes to finish at 29 under. Damn, maybe Simon is right after all. Tied for the lead with one more hole to play, Hamas goes over the water, landing just shy of circle 1 at 37 feet. A near death putt, but with no other choice but to run it. With ease, he sinks it for the win. Shout out to my boy Adam for pushing through the entire weekend to come out with the dub. Simon, next time, make sure you play from the correct lie, or just blame Prodigy and the win's all yours next time. I'm just glad we get a competitive Lizotte. I feel like the camera and the new daily vlogs is the extra motivation he needed to care about winning, when maybe that wasn't at the forefront of his mind at all times before. Pushing up 9 spots into a tie for 3rd, the new lefty in town, Nico LaCastro, after his 12 under day. Rounding out the podium and also at 27 down for the weekend was Evan Smith. And that's everything you need to know from WACO. If you want to stay up to date with all things disc golf, make sure to like and subscribe. This weekend, we have the first Elite Plus of the season at the Open at Austin. If you want exclusive behind-the-scenes access and more unfiltered content, check out the Patreon. Shout out to everyone who's been supporting the channel. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to go to the World Championships. So can't thank you all enough.